How's it going, everyone? It is Tuesday, December 24th. We are going to take a look at our November picks. So, as usual, I break this up into the type of picks that I do. I'm going to start with the earnings time spreads, then we're going to go into the day trades, and then we're going to end with the swing trades. Typically, I end with the day trades, but in November, we took a lot of swing trades. We had a lot of ads. So I kind of want to spend more of the time talking about that. And because those had the most picks and those had kind of the most sort of game planning. And I'm going to bring up my prior game plans just to show what I was thinking. I'll give examples of some play-by-plays for certain swings, so you can kind of see some of the thought process that I'd captured down as the days went on. Okay, so let's start with our first earning time spread, which was CART over here. So I have my earnings time spreads somewhat accounted for, although I was lazy on CART, so I did not have that. But I still have what I took, which was the 48 calls for a 27-cent credit. Here was the setup over here, so we had a good difference, good option liquidity, low times exceeded. The problem with CART was that actually I forgot that it's a much newer stock. So the numbers at times exceeded isn't as relevant because we don't have as much data. This IPO'd in October of last year. So you really want at least 2 years, 3 years of information before we see some sort of times exceeded. So that was the mistake that I made on CART. So anyways, but open here, had to move up to fill in the gap, and it got rejected pretty early in the day. So that was time for me to get out of the trade. Now, trade collapsed. I took the profits on the short calls, and then I wrote out the long calls, which expired worthless. So ended up being a 100% loss on CART. Happens. You have to size it, so you're willing to take a 100% loss on the position. Nothing really you could do here. And here's again trade-off in these earning time spreads between being nimble or being patient, where if you're patient, you may take a couple of more 100% losers, but you could get maybe 30, 40, 50% gains. If you're nimble, in this case, I may have taken like a 10% loss, but sometimes I may scratch out of potential winners. So that's kind of a delicate balance you have to strike. I ended up being on the patient side, and this time I got smacked down. Next one I took was AMAT as an ETS. So let's also take that chart up over here. I like the setup on AMAT. We had low average move. We had a good difference over here. We had, average move less than the expected move. Times exceeded is 0%. Decent IV crush. So pretty nice setup in AMAT. But gap down, broke through. Nothing much I could do there. Potentially I could have ridden the calls over here and rode them up to take a small gain, but this also ended up being a loss on the position. And I don't think it would have really cleared in time. Here is November 15th. So here's the end of the week. And you have until the 22nd. Yeah, so really didn't move enough to fill in that gap over there. Okay, so we took 2 losses on that. Let's move over to our day trades. So first one we had was Tesla. And we took this as a day trade long on 11.8. So here is the day on 11.8. Ton of volume, gapped up. This is a post-election move. Excuse me. And market, a big gap up post-election and was roaring. So didn't want to take any swings right away, but I did want to take some day trades on the long side over here. So here is Tesla. I'm going to go actually over to TradingView just to look at the M5 chart on this guy. So let's look at Tesla. Let's go to the M5 chart. And we're going to take a look at this day, which was 11.6. Let's go to the current day. And not, let's look at the 2008 crash. That is a not as cheerful time. Okay. So here's Tesla as a day trade long win. Pretty classic setup over here. Strong move. We have compression, higher low, right? Very tight compression. So break to the upside. There's your entry point, and you can ride that swing higher and take some nice gains into strength. It did sell off a little bit here at the end of the day. So worst case scenario, if you held it too long, you had a chance to scratch on the trade. If I look at SPY on 11.6, or sorry, 11.8, here's the market, flat open, just grinding higher, a little bit of a dip to VWAP, find some support above VWAP, long green candle, holds and compresses, and then we get that last leg higher. Over here we have a bit of a end of day profit taking. Doesn't get too overheated, but here is your sign. It's late in the day. Time to take some gains in your day trades when we start to see some more close below the 8 EMA, because it's going to take some time for that to recover. We don't want to give away our gains. So that was your kind of clue, at least by 255 on the market. And then if you look at Tesla, how it actually started to sell off on this last leg of the market, didn't quite rally up. So again, late in the day, that's your clue to take some gains on the stock. There's also one dip you could enter in over here. So if you enter it over here, you have more time to really ride that trade a lot higher. But if you get on the breakout over here, you know that you have to have a little bit of a tighter leash, because some of this move has been a little bit realized over here. All right, so there's Tesla. And then on the 11th, we took FTNT Long. So let's going to go over here. Let's pull it up on this chart. Yeah, I mean, that is a massive move in this stock. Does not make moves like that. Massive day yesterday. Big day of follow through. Yeah, let's look at this chart here. So massive candles. There's a dip. So here's your entry point on that dip. That's probably what I would have entered as a shorter term swing. So here's that long green candle on the open. And got a little compression here. We got a bit of a dip. So let's look at the market on a day like this. But you had a couple of chances here on this little compression break a little bit higher. You could have pushed up on this dip over here, pull up, dip over here. You could pull up and get a nice late day move. So I believe I took this as a late day move when we had a nice rally over here, and it started to stack some nice green candles and gain some relative strength. If I put up SPY on the 11th, so being a little bearish, right? So that's why we're holding off on our trades. Started to find some support, and I knew that, all right, I mean, we found some support. If they were starting to hold, so as soon as we start to get a poke higher, FTNT is already kind of grinding up higher in this last hour. So I thought if there's a chance for us to poke above this high, maybe a little bit of a bounce at the end of the day, FTNT is really going to surge. I didn't get the bounce, but I was still right on Fortnite, so that's why we were able to get a really nice win on that trade. Right, you can see here at this point the market is flat on this past hour. You can see these candles chopping around back and forth, and it's tested spit it a couple times. Nice steady green candles. Here's where you want to enter when you get this nice consecutive part of the move here, and then you can ride that up into some gains. It starts to get some tiny bodied candles. All right, start taking some gains on the table. You can ride that close to the end of the day. So that was a nice win in FTNT. Next one we took was Spot. We took Spot on the 14th. So let's first take a look at the market on the 14th. Okay, so you can see market kind of a weak bearish trend day. Has some bounces over here, but there's a little bit of tailwind on the bearish side. I'm gonna take a look at Spot on the 14th. Okay, so here's Spot on the sorry, that's December 14th. Where is November 14th? Here's November 14th. So day after earnings, pushing up a little bit higher. Nice move, right? Really strong move. And definitely one we can day trade. If you're swing trading, you want to wait for it to pull back. If I look at the market on the 14th here, right, market is pulling back, stock has surging higher, so that is a nice sign that, all right, spot has some buying, let's see what we can do on the day trading side. Main short-term bias here is that the market started to break through compression and closed below the 11.6 AVWAP, which was acting as some support, and after that day you saw we had some follow-through selling. So SPY, kind of a weak bearish trend day. It's been in a sort of weak bearish trend, and we wanted to be a little bit cautious. So let's look at spot. Yep, so here is spot. Earlier in the day, we're getting a bounce off of VWAP over here. And now this was a nice move up higher after a strong day, especially when the market was lower. Now it gets dragged down a little bit. Test VWAP over here. So you can buy it off this bounce, and we get this little poke below the low of the day, try to get something going. We don't get anything going on this poke or on this low. Now this is a marginal new low, so it's not the best, but it's also not the worst. And you can see it's a little bit choppy, but ideally I like to see this be a higher low. And even over here. And where I exited the trade is on this candle right over here, where we broke below this low of the day. We closed below that level. And I said, I'm going to get out of the trade because this should have been surging higher, but we got the market wrong. The stock did not have enough strength to actually bounce up and counteract the market. A little too much profit taking, and then we got some selling to the downside. So if we look at spot overall, it was a good stock, but this is, you want, like, if you're going to go long on a day that the market is mildly bearish, you need like a very, 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 very good stock. This over here tells us that there's some selling pressure here. Knockdown, knockdown. You can buy the dip early, but knockdown, marginal new high. You can take some gains over here. Has one more leg, but you're not missing much of the move on this last leg. And then it gets smacked down. And if you get the smackdown over here, you have a good entry, you end up pretty much scratching out of the trade. So to me, I think this M5 chart wasn't the best to take a long on. It could have been a little bit better. If I want to be ahead of the move, I need this trend to be really strong. And it was good, okay trend strength, but it wasn't the best trend strength. Okay, last one I took as a long was VST. I took this on the 21st. Yep, nice break of compression. There's some follow-through buying on that guy. Let's look at the market on the 21st. So would have liked VST has held the gains, compressing up higher. Fresh buy signal post earnings did not get knocked down with the market above this high over here. Let's take a look at VST on the M5 chart, or I guess SPY first on the M5 chart. So let's go over here. Let's go to SPY. Yep. So we got this test, right? Support. We're finding support. We're starting to rally higher into that gap test, and then we grind up higher, compress, and we kind of hold the gains from the prior day. So really nice stuff on that. So we had a bid check, and then after the first hour, we have a bullish tailwind. Let's take a look at VST, and let's take a look on the 21st. Yep, so I ended up getting in right over here, broke through, and I think I actually added an AVWAP over here. Yep, so when we broke through here, came back and tested it, that's when I added to the position, and then I wrote it up, and then when it started to not do too much at the high over here, that's when I started to scale out and take my gains on VST because the stock was flatlining over here, and the market was also flatlining. So I didn't have any tailwind or relative strength in the stock, and that was a good time to exit. So on this break through the high, minus trend line, getting it right over here at about 165, I believe I got my first bid, right around the 8 EMA. Book below that a little bit. I knew we'd find some support because you can see this move is a little bit stronger than the move in spot, right? The moving spot had strong green candles, and then it had the heavy selling. We had the selling, and then we had the nice move to the green candles on the second part. So that was a clue that this is a nice trend, and we have a decent chance to move higher, especially with a market tailwind in our favor. With spot, we didn't have that market tailwind. So that was a nice win on VST. All right, so let's take a look now at our swing longs. We had a couple of short-term swings and longer-term swings. So I'm going to start really just chronologically here with MBLY. Okay, MBLY on 11-1. Where is 11-1? As a long on a overnight swing. So I remember this. It was starting to base up. It had broken through this high, and our target was this 100-day SMA. So breakthrough over here, close around 15.55. Target over here, $17. Could have been a pretty nice win on the stock on the first, and willing to hold it through the election as well. So there is MBLY, and here you can see the election results, 6th and 7th, and we didn't get a huge pop-up on the 6th, but we did get a pop-up on the 7th, and then that's when we were able to take our gains on that swing. So this is pretty decent pattern. It's not again, you can see it's not the strongest stock in the fact that it's not in the top right-hand corner, but what I liked is that we got this dip here, bounce, lower high, or higher low, sorry, and then break above this prior high. So that tells us that we are getting into this move, and you can see the stock has rallied a little bit, not a ton, kind of flatlining. I think on these kind of setups, I'd have to take it a little bit more short-term unless I'm really seeing some convincing price action, like in a stock of Qubit, right, where we get a ton of volume here, right? This is a massive move on heavy volume that is materially changing the stock. So that's what's important there. I just realized, too, I actually forgot to take one more day trade, so I'm going to quickly go back to that here. On TWLO, on the 4th, where we took a scratch. So let me quickly pull that up. My bad on that. All right, so here is the market on the 4th. You can see there is some choppy conditions on this day. Move up higher, test the upside, can't get anything going, break through the downside, get a little bit of follow through, and then sharp reversal back to the range. Again, not doing a whole lot on that day. If we go to TWLO, very strong post-earnings stocks, ton of strength, ton of momentum in this guy. I see, yep. So this is a stock where I think I got it on this breakout over here, and then we had no follow-through on this breakout, and so I was able to scratch because, look at this, you had 2 hours of nothing, right? We wanted to move very quickly after your initial entry over here. Now, the better place to get it on TWLO was probably a bit on this dip, this double bottom here, getting through this high minus trend line, right? So right over somewhere here would have been a nice, decent point to get in the dip. But, yeah, I mean, it really made its move in the last couple of days. Test, test, test. Early dip you can buy over here and then ride that guy up on TWLO. So there was our scratch on TWLO. That was our last little day trade. Okay, so I talked about MLBY. Let's talk about Team. So Team was our first long swing over here. So I took it right over here around 233, so very close to this breakout high over here. And I mentioned a couple, I think before the election, I was like, I really like Team. It's had a really nice, strong move. was reversing through a lot of downward sloping trend lines. I just needed to hold this level, test, 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 hold, and start to poke into the gap. And that's what happened right over here on the 7th. Poked right into the gap, and I liked what I saw, so I was in the trade, took a starter position, started to climb up nice and high, pulled back, and the first ad I took was right over here on the 19th. I took it because it didn't dip as much with the market over here, held all the gains above that AVWAP, and it was actually starting to get above this prior high over here. So when the market starts to find some support, team starts to find some support, I added to my original cost basis here. So it took a little bit of heat, and then it actually pushed up a little bit higher. And I added at 260 on this breakout of the new all-time high on November 22nd. Now I can add to this breakout because we're inching up higher. We're still in the middle of this move. We haven't broken through the all-time high, so this is a good chance to add to those positions. Moving up higher, compressing, and then I took the remaining partial gains at 275 on this breakout right here. So really nice gains on that position, and then it started to compress. The market also started to compress after that breakout, and then on this big bearish candle, I took the remaining gains at 253 or 252.50. I can't quite remember. Took the remaining gains there as the stock was getting a little bit bearish, shedding a little bit of those gains. That was that. So all in all, I think really nice trade. It was my biggest winner of November and December. Now hindsight is 2020, where you say, "Oh man, you really should have taken profits at this high." Well, I knew I'd take profits on this gap up on December 4th. So gap up, I was like, all right, I'm taking profits. 275, 276 was my target. So 275, I'm like, I'm gonna take some gains. Now I probably should have taken maybe a little bit more remaining gains. Hindsight is 2020, where I was willing to risk the remaining gains on a pullback, as long as the pullback was weak, but the pullback ended up being strong. So ended up being on the losing side of that risk, but it was part of my game plan. And I'm gonna go to my outlook over here, and here's kind of what I wrote for Team Long. So this is the description. Here was the setup on the market and in the stock. Here is the entry that I took intraday, and here was the plan. Here's my time. Here's what exit for a loss, and I knew that where I would add. So, right, ad number 1 was that SPYs to pull back and test support. Team needs relative strength, an M5 and M15 trade signal and above support. So if you look at on this day over here, right, we moved up higher. We had, I think my trade signals triggered on that day, and SPY was finding support. It had this higher low, had a nice tall bounce that poked into the gap. So I started to get bullish over there. And here's the play-by-play, which I think is important because there's actually a lot of days where I'm not doing anything. So if you look at this play-by-play, the blue days is where I made some decision, right? Either I added or I took partial profits. The black days is where I was just looking at the price action on a candle-by-candle basis, and I said, all right, well, what would I, like, what's going on here? How's my bias changing? Am I worried about something? It's easy to look at this chart and say, oh man, you shouldn't have been worried at all. But there were some times, I mean, even here, it's like, pull back. It's like, sometimes you do get a little worried. It's like, would I have to take the loss? I will have to take the loss, but I wouldn't like to take the loss, right? So having this over here and then reviewing that is very, very crucial. So you can see here, here's 11th on the 11th to the 12th. I made a big move up, compressed all the gains. All right, I like this move here, and then I added a little bit to team on the 13th. Yeah, I think I had a little bit here because it was showing some relative strength. So, but I added 0.25 because the market didn't. Yeah, I wanted to see a market cycle to the downside, which is why I had a small add. And then I added a lot more. So I was at 0.75x position, and then I doubled that to 1.5x position at 240. So my average was at 242. Right. When did I start to see that move up higher? And then we got that follow through buying. then I added some more. Looks like I added over here on the on 1122. So I added, I added over here at 260. So I had a 2x position. Now 1125, I mentioned, I don't like this bearish hammer on team, but it's a small range. And I said, look, I'm scared of giving away gains on my best performer, but my stock and market bias has not changed, so I'm sticking with it. It could test the prior relative high, 255. So we're gonna take a little play-by-play here. But what I was thinking on each day. So here 1114, SPY bias 50 more bearish. Stock trend is orderly, but it can compress for a while. Since my bias is longer term, 2 months, I'm prepared to hold through a 2-week pullback and then add to the position if it shows relative strength. On the 18th, which was right here, SPY is pulling back and team is finding support at the 8 EMA. I would like to see the market test the 1115 AVWAP and then close the gap. I would like to see team form a double bottom higher low before adding to position. This would mean a break above the 1115 AVWAP and a retest. Right, so this is the, I think I'm talking about the day prior over here. This is the day from the gap down, so you can see SPY is going to be chopping around on this day. And I wanted to see it start to break into that gap before I added to the position. 1119 I added. 1121, SPY is confirming the move up. Team is testing D1 resistance. With the market tailwind, has a strong chance to clear that level, 70%. If the market has followed through and team can clear resistance, I will add a small bit to the trade. 1122, okay, so here's 1121, right? I like this, and I was like, hey, we're at resistance, but we're sort of close to, one, we didn't get knocked back too far, and then two, market is finding support. We're early in this, fresh in this market move. We have a good chance to clear it, and I gave a percent chance of clearing that. And that ended up happening. I was like, look, there's a chance it couldn't clear it. And then, if it doesn't clear and it gets rejected, I may have to scratch out of that position. But that didn't end up happening. So I played the odds there. 1125, I talked about I was not a fan of that bearish hammer. 12.2, team was with the AVWAP from the bearish hammer a couple of days ago. I'm expecting to break above the relative high from 1125 on any bullish trend day in the market. If that 70%, if that happens, I'm expecting resistance around 276. 12.3 as a nice run up to the prior 52-week high and is up overnight. If the market has a big gap up tomorrow, I will take partial profits, but otherwise I will hold. Took 12.4, took partial profits at 275. What happened on 12.4? We got that gap up. It wasn't a big gap up. It was a medium gap up with a little bit of a trend day, which not something I was totally expecting, but we ended up holding that level. Now, 12.5, I said, look, it's seeing some profit taking after a massive move yesterday, which I wasn't too worried about. So 12.12, I was like, look, it's making a choppy move higher. Probably going to take some more gains on a new all-time high when it starts to clear that 285 level. So 12.16 is compressing, finding support from these prior AVWAPs over here. This is the level where it's compressing. The last dip was a little bit deeper than usual, but not deep enough to cause me to worry. My game plan is still to hold into year end. 12.17, team had an intraday dip today. Is this a double top? Not buying it yet because of the SPY compression. So I was like, this could be a double top. This is what I thought over here. This could be a double top, but we're still in compression. I'm really not sure which way it's going to go. The real clue will be if the market pushes up higher and team does not. Typically, it's more rewarding to hold swings through favorable economic releases. FOMC, econ, and triple witching. The exception is a bear market where these have monumental impact. So the FOMC was coming on 12.18, and I made the conscious decision that, look, it's going to be more favorable to hold through those. And then 12.18, I was like, all right, we're down. I'm going to take remaining gains on a bounce. 258 is a nice target, which is an AVWAP level. And on 12.19, I took remaining gains at 254 on the bounce. So here's really a lot of times you are evaluating the conditions to not make a decision, right? You're spending most of the time not doing anything, and you're waiting for the right time to strike based on your analysis. So that's a lot on team over here. I'm not going to do that for all the stocks, but I thought that is an important one because you can really see, all the thought process happening on a day-by-day basis. So Amazon over here, I took Amazon long on the 12th, moved up higher, pushed down a little bit lower, and then I actually took a partial loss on this trade because I needed the buying power to add to team, so that's what I did. And then I took profits on Amazon on 12.4 on this gap up. Right, took partial profits around 217. Not a bad win. You could see it did end up pushing up higher, but we didn't have the probability in our favors for this sort of move. I didn't know that Mega Cap Tech was ended up going to be that strong and had a really nice surge higher. So ended up breaking even on Amazon, which is fine. In the future, it's really a buying power constraint. So me adding to team, excuse me, I did the math where I said, look, if I take a partial loss in Amazon and add that to team, then I'm going to make more money if I just hold Amazon and don't add to team, right? Then that's the decision that I made to add to team. So that ended up being a break even. So we had team and we had Amazon before this market pullback over here on the 12th. And then on 11/13, I took Reddit. So here is Reddit on 11/13. It pulled back here. It found some support. And I took as a small position because I needed to see the market. I wanted to see it had held during a market move down. So we held that move. We tested that level, and we started to move up higher. Reddit held the gains. I believe I added again on the 19th. And actually, I have my move over here. Yep, I added on the 19th, and I added a little bit more on the 21st as it broke out to a new high of the day. I think I took it at, looked at 152.52. So pulled back here, found some support. Right, there was some overnight news on this guy over here. And it didn't end up mattering whatsoever. And here's some of the play-by-play. It's moving up from support. 12.6. If this is a bullish trend day, I will take some gains. So bullish trend day. Didn't end up taking any gains. 12.17 hit the all-time high on the 17th. Right over here was a 17. Then got knocked down a little bit higher, and then it's grinding up higher again. Not a bad place to set an alert. Just clear that out. So breakthrough there would mean a nice little move up higher. So I took full gains in that position at 165, around 165. So from 135 to 165, $30 gain per share. Nice move on this stock. You can see that could have optimized it a little bit more, right? If you took some partial gains on this high. So seemed like when that volume started to dry up, taking gains near these short-term points is a little bit more favorable when this market move starts to dry up here. Right, we got a bounce on the 16th. Nice run on Netflix, Reddit. I remember I was thinking about taking up gains here, and I quantified some of the probabilities. I think it had a good chance to get up to 190s. Had to poke up higher. I was still favoring slightly favoring a breakout to the upside versus the downside, which is why I held. And I think that's important because I did, even though my plan, the unlikely scenario happened in my plan, I was actually trading according to my plan. So that is I think a big win in my book, where you should always trade according to your plan, and your plan can change with new information. But it's another thing where it's if I freaked out at this stock and I sold right over here, right, instead of reacting more analytically to what's going on in the market. So that is Reddit. We took that on the 13th. We closed that out for a really nice gain over here. Now on the 19th, we took 4 swings, and this is really important because I loaded up on swings when the market started to find some support. And I rode those higher. So let's take a look at those swings. So first one was Dash. I think I took dash right over here on the 19th, and I took a very small profit, I believe, on the 4th. I exited dash for a scratch. Oh, I think a $1 win on this position. It was a start of size. I never added to dash. It never confirmed up higher, and it didn't rally with the market, which meant that I had to take the gain. So if we look at this move over here, right, this is looking pretty good. No problem with this entry whatsoever. Didn't get knocked down too hard with the market. Was a nice runner up higher, and got knocked down a little bit over here. Okay, not the best, but then hey, look, it's starting to poke up higher, right? I'm not too over worried about this candle, but we need to see some follow through, and then we didn't get the follow through. So by the time we got the gap up on the 4th, I knew that, look, this stock is not really going to rally. I'm running out of time here. I'm going to scratch and don't have to worry about this trade. I can always get on better trades, and that ended up being the right decision. AFRM took this on the 19th as well. So here's the move on the 19th, rallied up higher, and then it again started to compress a little bit. So we got out on 12.4. Again, close to the high over here at around 71.50-ish. So we got in, let's call it 63, get out at 71. So that's $8 gain per position on AFRM. Here's the setup on this stock. Yeah, so that's a really nice breakout of this compression over here on the 18th, and on the 19th, we're starting to find some support. You see how it didn't get knocked down with the market. Nice strength post earnings through this upward sloping trend line. So we're starting to accelerate through that move higher. Okay, next one was app as a swing long. So beautiful move. This is like a picture perfect entry over here. Massively strong stock. Compress, compress, compress. Broke the compression. I entered at around 323, and then I never got to add to the position. You can see it compressed initially over here as the market's rallying, and I thought, okay, well, I don't like that as much, to be quite honest. Here's a second. Now, we got the breakout on the 3rd, which is what I liked, and because we got that breakout, I'm like, all right, I can stick to the position, but I didn't want to add because we're already above the all-time high. I didn't know how much more room we had on the move. So here's it on the 4th. Not looking fine, looking okay. And then we got this move up higher on the 6th, and I took profits at 400 because it hit some psychological resistance. Ended up being a nice move, and also it was looking for inclusion to the S&P. So when it didn't get that sell-off, it ended up pulling back down to AVWAP. Still looking decent, and I'd probably set an alert right here, top of this compression. When it starts to rally up, you have a nice move up higher, probably around 400 on the sky, but was a super nice when we got a nice chunk of that move, and we took gains into strength. This is what I really should have done on these kind of days where, you know, as this market starts to flatten out, that's where we can start to take gains on your positions. So that was a nice win. GoDaddy, beautiful setup. Here's it on the 19th. This is where we took it. So nice strong move. Pull back to the 8 AVWAP from 11.6, as well as the 8 EMA through this downward sloping trend line. Love what I saw. So we got it right over here. Close at 187.40, and really responded very nicely to the market. This is what we wanted to see. We weren't worried about this compression because it's a nice tight compression. Massive move up higher. Took gains around 207 at the high over here. Flattened out. Pushed up higher, but started to compress. And then on the 12.4 day, we took the remaining profits on the bounce at 203. So this is ideally what we want to see, where we don't lose too much from this high. And this is a move from 187, call it to 205. So that's a $20 move. That's a 10% gain on this guy in a couple of days. So beautiful move on GoDaddy over here. All right, 11.20, we took TWLO as a swing long. So here's it on 11.20, same setup, weak pullback over here, super strong move up higher. So we got on this weak pullback, one more tiny pullback over here, and then we took gains around 11.14. Again, look, 11.4. Here's the rest of the market. Not much upside after that 11.4 day. You can see how it's starting to flatline over here. So one rule of thumb, it seems to me, like once we get past the new all-time high and we inch up higher with the light volume candles, start taking gains on your longs when they start to challenge new highs, right? When they get close to new highs, that's when you want to take gains. So the high ended up being close to 117. We also had a IPOA VWAP coming up over here at 109. So I knew that as long as we had a market tailwind, we had a chance to break through that IPOA VWAP, which we did on the 4th, and I was able to ride that up a little bit higher. But I also noticed that we had this move, some selling coming down here, right? A little bit more selling, push up higher, a little bit more selling. So this trend is starting to weaken out. Still pretty strong, but we don't have the market tailwind anymore. The trend is getting a little bit later, so it's time to take gains when you can. So that was from 98 to around 113-ish, which is a $15 move versus 98. So maybe a 17-18% gain on that. Next one here was Netflix, which is interesting. So we got this later in the move. We took it as a day trade right over here at 906. Stock, big bearish day to the 8 EMA. And I wasn't panicking because, one, I actually sized this for a pretty big move. It was a small sized. And then two, I knew that as long as this red candle holds, we have no advance, and we start to move up higher, buyers are probably going to scoop this. We're probably going to inch up higher. So that's exactly what happened. And then again on Netflix, I probably had the chance, once this market start to compress, right, on any moves up to all-time highs, this is where you kind of want to take some gains. So that was the move. I ended up scratching Netflix over here, which I was fine with. But that could have been a small win, I think, on scaling out of some of those longs. It was a really strong long, which is why I wanted to kind of push it closer to 1,000. But I just didn't get the market tailwind for me for that to happen. So a lot of these ones where it's like I had a little bit of a better exit a couple of days ago, it's just kind of more listening to the market, I feel like. And then you still have time to get out on these compressions. You have a lot of time to get out before this bearish engulf day. Okay, 11:22, we had AI as a swing. Okay, 11:22. Yep. So stock was moving higher here, broken through a lot of AVWAPs. So there's a whole bunch of AVWAPs that had broken through right over here. Came back, tested it, but market has started to lose steam. So I ended up taking profits on the 4th. Took some small profits here. Get in somewhere around 37, got out somewhere around 38. So tiny amount of profits on AI. Again, this was late. This wasn't actually a super late in the move. On the 22nd was a pretty decent entry to take some swing longs, but it made a pretty big move. Had to digest the gains, and the remaining market tailwind just couldn't get it off the deck. Okay, shop. Here is it on the 25th, and I pushed up a little bit higher, so I took it on the 25th over here, and I exited at around 115, I believe, on the 5th, right over here. I didn't think it's going to break out. Couldn't break out when the market's rallying. Stock was flat. Had a fake breakout, immediately got sucked back in the range. So I don't feel too bad about missing this last leg of the move. I got a decent little win over here from around 110. I had a little bit at 113, and I took more profits at 115. So took a decent win on shop. Again, we know that on this kind of move here, we're still early in the move, but this was the last day. I think I really took swing longs because we're starting to approach that all-time high, and we didn't have a ton of time on those positions. But that was a nice little decent chart on stop. You can see it has moves up, gaps down, finds support, right? It has a lot of overlap, so it's really one you want to buy dips on, and you get a much more favorable entry point. UPST, pretty similar setup to shop. I like this big green candle is holding the gains here, and it run up, then it came back down, formed a higher low, moved back up higher, and you know, I was willing to hold through. We had this sell signal flip back pretty quickly on the 4th, and I wanted to see it poke back in the gap, and this is where actually holding it through ended up being more favorable. But ended up kind of scratching the trade when it started to reject off this high over here. So took the scratch on this trade right around, $78, $79. Had flatlined. Again, we needed to see some follow through, and actually fell down during the market, which is not very favorable. And I knew that because I was close to support here and we had this higher low, this red candle was engulfed pretty quickly, that, it wasn't like the world was going to fall apart, but I was ready for this stock. If it broke through the gap, that I would take the loss. And that's what I was sized for. And that was the last pick of the 5th. So after the 25th, here's a shift, right? After the 25th, all my picks became day trading. And we had one swing short and one swing long. Qubit was a swing long because that's doing its own thing. Low is a swing short over here. But you can see that this first part of the move is really when it started to scale, add to longer term swings and take shorter term swings. Once after the 25th year with Thanksgiving weekend, we're approaching the all-time high. Wasn't crazy about taking more swings. I was looking to take more gains. So overall, in November, we had 20 trades, 13 wins, 3 losses, 4 break-evens. On our day trades, we had 3 wins, 1 loss, 1 break-even. On our swings, we had 11 wins, 0 losses, 2 break-evens. Or sorry, actually. Yeah, that is right. And then our earnings time spreads, we had 0 wins and 2 losses. So pretty nice month. This was a month where I was swinging a lot more than I was day trading. And it was really one of the months where I felt like everything clicked together. I really can't stress the importance of making a game plan. And for me, I really have to write it out. Having to sort of play-by-play helps a lot because it captures my thoughts. It reminds me of my plan. It reminds me of my setup. And, when you're trading, it's like sometimes you have a plan and you're trying to, stick with it. And you kind of know the plan when you start, but maybe you try to take a little bit of heat. Maybe something happens you're not quite expecting. You have to remind yourself of that plan and why you got in that plan in the first place. And having this just laid out over here, it just really helps. And even when you say, here's an example, I didn't take snow, but I'll point it out over here, where I took snow over here, and I ended up taking the loss in the position here, but I actually took a PDS hedge, and I recovered some of the gains on the drop because I was like, actually, this broke my bias here, and we have a decent chance to push to the downside with some bearish momentum that's relatively weak. And the stock has, where the market's flat and the stock is moving down, so there's some momentum here for a PDS. So I knew I didn't want to get out of the gains because I still had a chance that this stock was going to recover with a market move higher, but it didn't, and took gains on this bounce around 164, right, the day after the move. So now you could say, look, maybe you should have gotten out right at the 10th when it didn't perform. Maybe, right? Hindsight's 20/20. But if I have a longer term swing, you have to be willing to take some heat. And it was more on snow, even though I didn't post it, right? This is on December 4th, so this is better off probably as a day trade, right? Versus day trade or a short-term swing trade than a longer-term swing trade. And I decided to change it to a longer-term swing trade just because I still felt market had maybe a little more upside, and that was that. So that's what I had over here for November. Hope this was helpful, and I will catch you all in the next video.